Chapter 2, Mishnah 5. The Mishnah now describes the layout of the woman's courtyard. This was a large open enclosure built to the east of the inner courtyard. Although this area was also used by men for many purposes, it was called the woman's courtyard because this is where the woman would gather on Sukkos to watch the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, rejoicing of the water drawing, as the Mishnah discusses below. The woman's courtyard was 135 amos in length by 135 amos in width on the inside of its walls. And there were 4 chambers in its 4 corners, each with a length of 40 amos from east to west, and a width of 30 amos from north to south. These chambers had no roof, and that is how they are going to be built in the third temple as well. As it says in a prophecy about the third temple, in Erev chapter 46, verses 21 and 22, the angel brought me to the outer courtyard. This is the same as the woman's courtyard of the second temple, and led me past the 4 corners of the courtyard. And behold, a chamber at one corner of the courtyard, a chamber at one corner of the courtyard. At the 4 corners of the courtyard were chambers that were keturos. And this word keturos means that they were not covered by a roof. Each of the chambers of the woman's courtyard served a different purpose. For what were these chambers used? The southeast chamber, it was the chamber of the Nazirim. For there were Nazirim the Nazirim would cook their shalamim offerings, shave their hair, and throw the hair under the pot where their offering was being cooked. The northeast chamber, it was the chamber of the wood. For there the Kohanim, who were physically blemished and could not take part in the actual avoda, would inspect the supply of firewood kept there and remove the wormy pieces of wood, because any piece of wood in which a worm was found is unfit for being used on the Mizbeach. The northwest corner, it was the chamber of the Mitzoraim. Regarding the southwest chamber, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said, I forgot for what purpose it was used. Abba Shaul says they used to keep wine for the libations and oil for the menorah and for mincha offerings there, and it was called the chamber of the oils because it held more oil than wine. In the days of the second temple, the rabbis noticed that men and women had begun socializing with one another inappropriately during the Simchas Beis HaShoeva on Sukkos. To prevent this from happening, the rabbis decided to make a change to the design of the woman's courtyard. The woman's courtyard was originally built with walls that were perfectly smooth and flat, with nothing protruding from them. But then they surrounded it on the inside with a balcony that rested on ledges protruding from the walls. This was done so that the woman would watch the Simchas Beis HaShoeva from above on the balcony, while the men would watch from below, so that the men and women should not become mingled together. The inner courtyard was higher than the woman's courtyard, and the 2 were connected by a flight of steps on the western side of the woman's courtyard. 15 steps went up from within the woman's courtyard to the area of the inner courtyard called the Israelites' courtyard. And these steps are corresponding to the 15 chapters of songs of the steps that are in Tehillim. For upon the 15 steps, the Levim would recite these 15 songs during the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. These 15 steps were not straight, rather they were round, like half of a circular threshing floor, because round steps could hold more singers than straight steps.